We've all been there. You see an article with an interesting headline, you click the link, and bam, the dreaded paywall. Maybe you're like Andre and you try to find a techie way around it. Or maybe you're like me and you just convince yourself it wasn't that interesting of an article. In this video, Andre and I discuss why websites put content behind paywalls and why it might not be such a bad thing after all.
I actually have a Medium subscription for $5 a month now. Never thought I would do it. I actually look for ways to get around their paywall. And then one day I was like, I give up. I'm just going to give you $5 a month.
It's like you were just saying, right? Like $5 a month. What is that? Just make one less avocado toast one day, Andre. One less Starbucks latte on your way to the office.
God,
I know you don't.
I hate Starbucks.
But no. So I had a subscription to the Atlantic for a little while, for about a year, and then it renewed. And I think I was on the annual plan, and
Really?
It was over $100 for the year. And I was just like, I wasn't reading it enough. Like it just wasn't.
Because you're on Reddit.
And most of the stuff I ended up reading on the Atlantic was really depressing. And I was like, I'm trying to not surround myself with all that depressing shit anymore. It's like the only times that I will read stuff about Trump is when it's going to make me laugh.
So you mean every day?
Yeah, pretty much.
The paywall thing is it's I don't know how I feel about it. I think
why is the model different on the internet than it is, say, in newspapers, right?
Give an example. Okay,
so the News and Observer would publish a newspaper and they'd put it out in stands. And in order to get a newspaper, you had to pay, 25, 50 cents, $1, depending on the day,
right?
And depending on what year. But then they started publishing their stuff online, the same content that was in the newspaper. And you could read it for free a lot of times without having to pay for the newspaper.
So what was I think the internet subscription was like $12 a month, right?
I think that's what it ended up being. Yeah. Something like that.
Okay.
So if you were okay, let's say you were a person who had a subscription to the internet, a daily subscription or whatever, and you were paying $20 a month even, would you not be willing to pay that $20 just to get the online version instead?
Yeah.
Or even like $10, right?
I would pay like a fraction of that because I know that here's
think about because it's not just about the infrastructure, right?
It's about the
employees too, right? And so, because I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think that's part of it, right? Is it's like the physical newspaper. This is something I'm purchasing. I'm taking it with me. This is mine, right? I can go start a fire with this if I want to. I can't do that with the article online unless my computer catches fire, I guess.
So what's your argument?
I don't know. I'm trying to understand why it is, because I'm with you that I think paywalls are a good thing. I think journalism, content, right? Like good quality content should be compensated for, essentially.
Yes.
That doesn't mean like, hey, the Chris and Andre show is putting up a paywall to read our thoughts on the Bob's Burgers episodes, right? But maybe there's a day down the road where we feel like the amount of time and effort that we're putting into creating and publishing this content and the quality of the content actually does warrant some compensation for
Sure.
it, right? And so I guess what I'm trying to understand is it feels like there was a major disconnect for just about everybody and I use the example of like newspapers to online because I feel like that
accurate.
Was
it's very accurate because I think part of the problem is that when in the mid 80s or mid 90s, when the internet became more accessible to people, that outlets were struggling to figure out if it was real, right?
Yeah.
One of the first sites I remember, but one of the first sites that stuck out of my mind that left AOL to the internet was Toyota.com. I have no idea why that is ingrained in my memory. You were always trying. You always felt like these companies were trying to figure out how to get people to their websites. I think they kind of knew, they just didn't really believe what was going to happen next. So I think part of that part lasted way too long, and they lost a lot of their equity in their brand, and the people devalued
because they were giving it away for free for so long, right? And then they tried to put the paywalls up, and then it was like, oh shit. We've been giving this stuff away for free and everybody's online. Nobody's buying the paper anymore. So now we got to start charging you what we were charging for the paper. And people are like, well, I'm not getting the paper. I don't want to pay for this. I was getting it for free for so long. Why am I paying for it now?
So let's say hypothetically an N&O subscription is like, I think the last time I paid for was like $13.90 a month or something like that, right? So what if it's $8? Right? $8, that's reasonable. And you don't give anything that's, well, there's a technical problem. The technical problem is a lot of papers like N&O were getting their news from AP Wire.
Yep. Absolutely.
So unless AP Wire plays along, then it doesn't matter.
But you also, and so what the N&O and WRAL both did for a little while. N&O paywalled their sports stuff because that was their local reporters who were doing that coverage. And so for like the local sports coverage, you had to pay for that.
But it doesn't cover the overhead and the total expenses.
No, of course not. Not even close, right? Even as big as college sports and local sports are in the Triangle area.
So I think that they let something
that makes a lot of sense though. Yeah. That like they're the ones who kind of fucked it up and they're like, oh, just come to the website, come get it for free. And then part of it is because they're like, oh, we're running ads, right? And so we're getting paid for these ads, but ads aren't paying what they used to anymore because ads aren't as effective as they used to.
Yeah. It's on them. I don't know. And I also,
no, that makes sense.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about it being like kind of their fault.
Yeah, it's totally their fault. They really didn't. They thought that they didn't believe it was going to be a thing, and then they didn't anticipate the fact that, well, we can get rid of the building. Like we can just scrap the building. We can scrap the equipment. We can just write off and depreciate the overhead on the equipment. And just move on. They just didn't.
We can get rid of most of our employees and start having AI write our articles for us.
I think that's a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea, but it's definitely the direction that plenty of places are trying to go.
And I hope they don't. I really hope they don't. So that's my thought on that. Paywalls are not bad inherently. Just have good, I hate the word content now, but have something unique.
Thanks for checking out the Chris and Andre Show. Remember, unlike yourself in middle school, those like and subscribe buttons aren't going to hit themselves. And be sure to leave a comment with your favorite part of the show or a topic you'd like us to cover in the future. As always, stay salty.